The banjo is one of America's oldest instruments, and it's been played everywhere from the parlors of the very rich to the porches of the very poor. But not many women are featured on the banjo. Our next guest, Cynthia Sayer, is certainly changing that as a professional hot jazz banjo player. Welcome back.
I'm very happy to be back. Thank you.
Now, this is not a huge instrument. Why don't more women play it?
Well, it's really because I think there's a very funny history about the banjo. It actually used to be considered a female instrument in its early days in the 1800s, and then somewhere along the line it became male identified. And then it became very unusual for women to play, and you would be amazed some of the experiences that I had, particularly when I was a young player, and they weren't used to seeing women in my entire field, and I'd come up playing a banjo and they were like, uh-oh.
And I can see why some of those women look pretty scary who were playing the banjo.
Well, jazz in general, I'm trying to think back of, when I've been out and seen groups, there's not a lot of women in jazz. Why is that?
I used to make a joke about that. I used to say, well, I think women are generally smarter than I am, and that's why. But honestly, I'm happy to say that is finally in the process of overt change. But for most of my career, there were almost no women instrumentalists we're talking about. Of course, there are many great jazz women vocalists through the years, and occasional pianists, we identify with women, but as instrumentalists, we would rarely see them, and I was on tour for 15 years before I ever even worked with another woman.
Oh my goodness.
And that was in Germany, actually, an instrumentalist again.
And you do hot jazz, which is another thing that there aren't many women in.
Yes.
What's the difference in jazz and hot jazz?
Good question.
Hot jazz is an earlier style. What I do is I sort of focus on music of the 1920s and 30s. And later styles get more cool jazz. You've heard of cool jazz?
Right, yeah, smooth jazz.
Smooth jazz and all of that. So hot jazz refers to an earlier time. There are different names for it. Some people call it New Orleans jazz and traditional jazz and so on, but the sort of generic name that's considered today's name for it is hot jazz.
And we hear about call and response in jazz. What does that mean?
Well, there was a very old tradition, a call and response that came from the blues and came from work songs and from spirituals, and this became a part of what evolved into jazz. And there are some songs that all of you know that involve call and response. You want to try one?
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
Yes.
You guys have to respond.
All right.
Okay.
What do you want us to say?
Well, what you're going to do, the whole call and response thing is based on me saying something or singing it, and then you repeating it.
So we're going to sing it back.
You're going to sing it back.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure you'll know this one. Oh, when the saints go marching in,
Go marching in.
oh, when the saints go marching in. Thank you. In that number, another verse, when the saints go marching. Okay, let's try one more time. Oh, when the sun refused to shine, Oh, when the sun refused to shine, well, I wanna be in that number when the sun refused to shine.
That's great.
I feel like we're on a porch.
We are so good. We'd love to see your fingers fly. Can you show us a little bit?
Sure. Well, that song, When the Saints Go Marching In, that was the typical closer for the great Louis Armstrong,
Yes.
the genius of all jazz. So why don't I do just a banjo version of that?
Okay. of that. Cynthia Sayer is at the Glen Ridge Performing Arts Center in Palmer Ranch on Sunday, February 25th. You can go to their website for tickets and for information. Next, we're switching up on our sound to reggae with jaw movement.